Welcome to Businessworld, Smart Cities. We are very honored today to have with us Mrs. Sheila Dixit, former Chief Minister of Delhi from 1998 to 2013. She served 3 terms as Chief Minister of Delhi, and we are very pleased to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take you back to 1998, when you started your first term as Chief Minister. What was the environment like in Delhi at that time?
Well, the environment in Delhi was not a good one. You know, being the capital city of the country, it didn't appear like a capital city. There were power cuts, the roads were bad, there were no flyovers, there was, bad water supply. Everything was uncertain. So it didn't look like a city which deserved to be called the capital of India. So it was in a bad shape, and we came into power in 98 November or December I think. So really we didn't have much of 98, but then later on we picked up. So we prioritized a lot of things, and there was a lot of pollution also. You know, people used to go around with wearing masks, and coming back home with dust all over them. So it wasn't a very nice city at that time.
What were the main challenges you faced in evolving policy to meet some of these issues?
Well, you see, what the biggest challenge that I thought, and we prioritized that one, the challenges we had to do so many, and you can't just say one after the other, it has to be done all collectively to have a real impact. But one of the biggest ones was power. We wanted, power, the power company of the government of Delhi was in a shambles, inefficient, ineffective, callous and all. So privatization of power. Then we also had pollution, as I told you. So to shift over from diesel to CNG was it another challenge, which was required immediate treatment, because otherwise if you kept on having a city which was polluted, it wasn't good. Then we also had to build up a lot of flyovers and bridges and change the education system, because in the pass percentage in the government schools at that time was about 28%. When we left the government, it was 87, 97% and all. So you see, there were challenges all around, and the idea was, what the dream that we had was to have a city which was a world-class city, comparable to all the other capitals of the world, and a city which India could be proud of.
Sheila, what would you say is your proudest achievement over 15 years as being a Chief Minister?
Change, because you have to put it collectively. Now, a city is not a small thing, and it requires treatment at every level. It needs to be clean. Unless you have a clean city, you can have all the best buildings. If it doesn't look clean, the city purpose of the world-class city or a first-class city or a smart city is not served. So you see, it's like life, if you want your life to be successful, you don't just concentrate on one aspect of it, you concentrate on everything to make it look nice, successful and attractive, beautiful, catering to everybody's needs and requirements. So it wasn't an easy job, but fortunately, the people of Delhi put their faith 3 times on us, and therefore we got time. We got 15 years, and we managed to do it, and we took steps which were urgent. Another thing I would like to point out to you, please remember, Delhi is not a full state. It has, the local government of Delhi does not have land with that, does not have police with it, and many other things, and everything that we need to do or initiate has to get the sanction of the central government. So the process is cumbersome, and it is not freedom.
Is there one moment, though, amongst those 15 years that really stands out for you, that you recall as a pinnacle moment?
We did so many things that every day or every week or every month there was a proud moment. Bringing in metro, for instance, that was one of the proudest moments, you see. When that time Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister near Kashmiri Gate, we inaugurated the first metro line coming from East Delhi towards Kashmiri Gate. Now that was a very proud moment, because nowhere else in the country, Calcutta had tried to get metro, but it had somewhere stopped in between. So that was a very proud moment, that here we've become a city which can compete with any other city in the world. We also have a metro. For instance, when we turned diesel into CNG, that was a proud moment also. When we brought in air-conditioned buses here and low-floor buses, those were proud moments, because they catered to the mass of people, not just catered to a few people.
So 2013 comes around, and unfinished business, things that you would think about and reflect on and say, we wish we were able to complete certain things that remained unfinished. Any regrets looking back over the 15 years?
Well, we thought of a monorail project in East Delhi in addition to the metro, and we were going to do that. Every time you move forward, is not only do you have to look for new things to meet the requirements of the people, you also have to look at the maintenance of what you've already done. So it becomes a double, its responsibility. New things to be done, because new things are coming, and old things to be kept in ship-shape competition. Cleaning Delhi, that's one thing that I really am very worried about. You see, Delhi has a very big population. The density of population has become almost unbearable to the size of Delhi, and more people come. And what I would like to do to stop all these unauthorized colonies and these jhuggi jhopris, the so-called jhuggi jhopris. That has been my dream, and I would have done something if we had got this thing, another term, because they ruined the, the otherwise great face of Delhi. But I must also tell you one thing, that removing these clusters is not the answer. The answer is, wherever they are working, you must build multi-storied housing for them. We built multi-storied housing for them in many areas, but they were outside the main part of Delhi. Now, if I have a maid who's working for me here, she would like to live near around. So would I like her to live near around. But if she has to come by bus early in the morning and come here after 2 hours of travel and go back 2 hours, 4 hours of a day if they go in traveling. So that would have been my greatest ambition, and something which we were not able to fulfill. We started it, but due to constraints of rules, regulations, plans, and this, that, the other, we weren't able to move fast enough.
Move fast forward now to the present day and ask you a little bit about your assessment of the new government in Delhi. How would you assess their performance so far?
Well, they've been in governance for just about a year, and in the year that all that we seem to be seeing are advertisements, a budget of 526 odd crores for the budget for advertisements. But what they are advertising, nobody knows, because they came into power because they promised so many freebies. Now, are the freebies really reaching the people? Free electricity or less electricity, free water, and so on. Is it reaching? People come and tell me, somebody says, all right, yes, my bill, I got it less this time. Instead of 200, I got 100. But the next month, they made it 300. So they made up for that. So you see, there's a lot of confusion of what kind of governance is taking place. You don't know. And they have not done any, they have claimed today that Delhi's pollution has come down. It's come down because the climate has, this time has been comparatively more cooperative than it was in earlier years. But to take credit for something which you have not done, this seems to be the policy of this current government. So, I think everybody as citizen, I am a citizen like you, anybody else is, we are confused. What is happening? Is it really happening, or is it just carrying on, or is it just talk? We are going to bring 200 schools. How are you going to bring 200 schools in a matter of 2 years or 3 years or 1 year, because you need land, you need all kinds of, the process is there. So, it looks like a government which talks a lot, but does very little.
I'm going to take the focus a little bit to a central scheme, the Smart Cities mission. What is your assessment of the Smart Cities mission?
You see, the mission is very good. We must have smart cities. But first I want to understand, and we must make people understand, what does a smart city mean? You've given it a name, smart cities, but 99.9% of the people don't know what do you mean by a smart city? Does it have good water? Does it have good power? Does it have good transport? Does it have good education? Does it have good higher education? Does it good air quality, housing for all? So, you see, first, and I am naming, maybe I am leaving out a lot more other things. Nobody should be had to beg, jobs for people.
Some people might say to you, smart cities are all of those things. They must have components of all of those.
Yes.
But the way that a smart city has been conceptualized, which is very technology heavy and technology driven, can smart cities be inclusive cities?
But of course, you must have technology also. And what do you mean by it? You should have a good telephone system. You shouldn't have drop calls. You should have a good system where all the electronic gadgets, the modern gadgets that you have, they work well. You should have good cars which do not pollute. You should have cars which do not break rules and regulations. Traffic should be good, it should be smooth. So, you see, the concept of a smart city is one which, if somebody comes, say to Delhi or to any other city which is a smart city, says, wow, this is a city I'd like to live in.
Digital technology seems to be driving a lot of the thinking around smart cities.
Yes.
Mobile apps, tracking buses, Uber, Ola, the kind of services. Is this an inclusive model of development, or are we building cities for an urban elite?
No, if they work well, then it's an inclusive model. Yes. But if they don't work and they are just at the moment trying to find their feet, place to where they can stand and show what they are wanting to do, then it's a different picture altogether. And I would say, don't expect smart cities to come up within a week. You should have to have a vision of a smart city. The vision of a smart city, say, if you call Kanpur a smart city, the vision is going to be very different to what, say, Amritsar is, or what Delhi is, or what Bombay is. Now, so you have to cater to that particular area and its requirements and its needs and its status, whether it is a agriculturally based city where all the agriculturists come there and use it as a market, or is it an industry city, or is it a technology driven city. So, you have to define different cities and make them into different. For instance, Bangalore. Bangalore is today known as the smart city for electronics and for modern means of communication. Calcutta was once known as a great industrial center, so was Bombay, but today the industrial centers have spread out. So, Gurgaon is a city which is new, it's looking very nice, it's coming up well. Noida is another city which is coming up. So, what is the concept, basic concept of a smart city, and what are its requirements? What is the society's requirements? What are the requirements of development?
One common criticism of the smart cities approach is that it focuses far too much on new disruptive digital technologies and less on urban planning and policy making, which is the fundamental core.
You can bring in technology and it's all very good, but if you do not have a clean city, if you do not have good clean drinking water, if you do not have good roads, and it's all broken up roads, or traffic or movement is difficult, then it does not a smart city.
What, in your view, are the three biggest challenges facing Delhi towards moving towards a smart city problem? What would you identify as three?
Well, the number one is, of course, migration into Delhi. Okay, but you can't help it, it's the capital, this thing. The most important one is housing, I feel. Housing not for the rich, but for the poorer and the middle class, the lower middle class and the poorer sections. That unless that housing is given, you will have shanties growing up everywhere. You see? And once shanties come into any town, then what happens is that it starts getting a shabby look, because nobody cares for them. They are citizens who are illegally sitting wherever they are living or sitting. So I think the biggest challenge that our big cities face, and the smart cities will face eventually, is that these clusters which have no legal sanctity are not allowed to grow. But they have to grow, because where else do they live? Where else do they go? So you have to have an alternative system of housing, of people being able to live. But there's another problem. In Delhi, we gave some housing and gave these night shelters, so more and more people started coming in. So smart cities have to be helping each other, balancing each other.
An issue that you actually have worked on for most of your career, which is women's issues. I don't know that it's well known, but you represented India at the United Nations, and you have also been involved in the creation of women's hostels in New Delhi. What could Delhi be doing towards women's empowerment? And when I say empowerment, that includes employment, safety, access to childcare. Any ideas on how the city should be thinking about this?
Women are not given the kind of due that they deserve. But I personally feel that we have to fight for our rights. And we have to have the men folk with us to say, yes, they deserve it. How is it that a woman works so much harder than our brothers do? 76% of the world's work, even in India, is done by women. She looks after the kitchen, she looks after the household. Even when she's working, she has to get to her office at 10 o'clock. She sees to it that everybody's little packet of food, or the house is done and the servants have come, or they haven't come, or it's been cleaned up or not. So she looks after the house, she looks after parents, maybe the husband's parents, or maybe I've never seen brothers looking after parents, really. The way women look after them, sisters look after them, which means physically look after them, you see. If they are unwell or something, it's the women. So you look after your family, you look after society, you have to keep your children, absolutely. And it's the children up till at least the age of 8 or 10 are mother's responsibility. Nobody else looks after them. Their students, their clothes, their habits, everything is done. So why is it that I've never been able to understand, and this is what I try and bridge the gap in, why is there a gap between the two? You are two sides of the same coin, and the two sides are needed. So if the man has to do his work and the woman has to do it, why is the woman denied this? She said, all right, go and earn. You should work also, but don't forget the house. Why can't the man help in the house then? become a part-time housewife or house husband, not housewife but a house husband. You see, these things are not yet evolving in India, and I think we do that. Unless we do that, why is a girl teased even in taxis? You see, women don't tease men. So I think some very drastic changes in the way you look at society, the perceptions have to change. That will take some time, I'm sure it will, but respect for women. Why do you take a woman for granted? She can be hurt. Nobody bothers if she's hurt. And if the whole family goes around, if a man in the family is, somehow, by hurt I don't mean physical hurt, mental, emotional, physical, all kinds of hurts.
As a woman who's had to balance work, you've been a mother, you've been a wife, you've been a leader, a political leader, you've also been an daughter, you've also been an administrator,
yes.
Right? And you've worked, in tough environments, right? What is your message to Indian women, not just Delhi women, but Indian women in general?
All Indian women, or all women for that matter, just don't give up. But don't forget your womanliness. I'll tell you why. Because all the love, affection, the softness of life, the culture of life comes from women. You see? So don't forget that also. And I would appeal to the men, please respect her and teach her as an equal, more than an equal, because she does more than you do. She takes on many more responsibilities which you are not able to fulfill. A woman does it. So, respect for women and don't give up. Both men and women should not give up the ideal society we want to reach, where women are women because they are women and men are men because they are men. But why this inequality? Sometimes you get wages also for the same kind of work, women get less wages. Why? I have seen women carrying huge, amounts of heavy furnitures or whatever it may be. And you say that a woman is a weaker sex, and then you make her do this work, and then pay her less for doing the same work. Now, these discrepancies, unless society decides, leaders decide, we would not have reached the ideal world.
What are your plans now?
My plans now, well, I write, keep writing, and I'm trying to bring out 1 or 2 books on Delhi and myself. And then after many years, I'm beginning to look at the family. So I'm enjoying my grandchildren, I'm enjoying my sisters, brothers, the family, friends and all, which I never had time for in 15, 16 years when I was working. So life is great.
Tell us something you love about Delhi.
Oh, I love everything about Delhi. I've grown up here. I wasn't born here, but I grew up, my school education, my college education. Then after I got married also, a lot of my time was spent in Delhi. So for me, this is the city that in spite of all that people may say that hasn't got this, hasn't got that, it's a city which I love. And please believe me that the 15 years that I spent as the Chief Minister of this city, all my work was out of love for Delhi.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for being with us today. It's been a real pleasure to get your thoughts on these issues. Thank you.